esteemed members of the opposition and dear judges, we all know how hard it is to find housing in our today's society, let alone reliable. A single bedroom, simple apartment, a medium-sized store can easily go up to $250,000. People need a solution to solve this issue and not pay an outrageous amount of money to live, especially when they are indebted to the government that implements this very own policy they're talking about. I think that they forget that with this policy comes a lot of consequences. They forgot to announce how exactly they are implementing this policy, how exactly they are going to solve this problem of housing. Because as far as I know, when you implement such a policy, you are still demanding from the people to pay back what you are contributing, okay? You still have something to respond to. So now I'll first dive into what they were saying, the opposition's argument. First they said that they're making sure that the government is stable by implementing this policy and by making sure that the country is happy in everything they're doing. Okay, I'm just going to tell you this. It does not make it accessible for them. It's just indebting them. Sooner or later, these people, they will have to pay back the allowance. If you allow the government to pay for the whole population, the whole country, without demanding anything back, then the GDP is going to go down. The country is not benefiting anything. They're just losing economy. So, why are you talking about making the government more stable when it's just going to make them even more unstable? Second, rejected. Second, they said that the country will benefit from this program because they're making housing more accessible for other people, right? But the country is not benefiting from this program. The government is. If you have kids, and you're talking about kids, okay? And you can't stop talking about kids, and if you have kids, you're talking about stability. Then you don't know what you're talking about, because when you're talking about kids, they seem to sell this housing policy as a dream, with no prices, no problems, no nothing. Let me just tell you that inflation exists, okay? You are not ensuring a stable future generation for these kids. When you are paying this housing, you are still gonna pay back later again and again. I'm saying this because they did not clarify how exactly they are implementing this policy. We don't know what's gonna happen in the future. We don't know exactly how they're gonna pay back this rent, especially when you're not taking into consideration these marginalized groups. They are talking about the poor and making house more affordable as much as I know. They are not doing that, okay? So then they kept on talking about how it's gonna make housing more affordable. Let me just tell you this, and it's gonna make the country happy because when you have housing more affordable, you're happy and you're stable in your life. But how are they happy and stable if they're drowning in debt? Again, I'm talking about debt because that's what it is. When you implement this policy, okay, I'll take a few on.
So we're actually not going to be in debt because the whole goal of this debate is to actually say that the consequence of lowering the cost, which means that they won't really be as much in debt, and the government will also benefit from it, so the people and the government are happy, which means there's a better country in place.
How exactly are they benefiting the people if they are implementing this policy? Because what you are saying right now doesn't make any sense. You're talking about implementing this policy to benefit the people because you're enabling those people, you're enabling the housing of those people, but you did not explain how exactly you're going to enable them. All you're talking about is how you're going to give them money for them to have access to those house easier. But you didn't talk at all about how the people are gonna pay back because the government is not benefiting from this. As far as I know, they are the ones who are losing in this whole equation. As I said earlier, if you want to benefit the people, then you're just forgetting about the government because if they're not benefiting from this, then this policy is not going to work. Rejected. I'm going to reply to a POI that they asked to my second speaker. So first they said that the students' problem for housing, there was a students' problem for housing, this was her argument. And did you notice that one of their solutions, the third one, was rent? They said that they would split the price with another person and that they would rent the house. They did not talk about how they would buy a house and split the bill. Again, they're just contradicting this, so they proved our point. That's what we kept talking about for this whole time. How exactly does that make them happy? They're just offering the same solution as us, rejected. Okay? Now, I just want to say that there was a POI that they asked about how exactly they asked saying that the renting still exists on your side, but you're not empowering it. Okay? I'm just going to say that this POI is not exclusive because as the housing also exists on our side, but that is not what we are advocating for. So this just plays on our side too. That is just irrelevant to this debate because Why are you saying that rent is still okay on your side, it still exists on your side, but housing still exists on our side too? It's just not empowering. Rejected. Now I'm just gonna dive into our argument. So first of all, we'll be talking about the government, okay? Let me just tell you that they forgot to mention that this is very expensive for the government, okay? Providing house payment is extremely expensive. It takes billions and years to implement this house policy when you enable housing. But when you rent, it's a regulatory fix that stabilizes the cost by usually being stable in the priced housing market. Okay? The housing is just like not stable at all. The prices can go from 250,000 yesterday to 1 million the next day. You don't know what's gonna happen. Okay? But when you rent, the prices are usually the same in the priced housing market. Okay? Generally, they are based on multiple variables. For example, if you're buying an apartment, the regular price is going to be the same. It's not really going to change. This is not the same thing as housing. Second of all, I just want to talk about how it's going to become a financial burden for people who are constantly moving. They forgot to mention those people because I feel like they were not mentioned enough during this whole debate, okay? There are people who are constantly moving for work purposes. Whether you're an air hostess, or athletes, or even artists, is the house going to enable them to buy a home in each location they're traveling to? How exactly are you going to help those people? Those people that do not have stable houses. For example, if I'm going to be an athlete and I'm going to have a tournament here for like 1 year, I don't need to pay a whole house to live in for 1 year. Like, what's the point? When I can just rent a house for half the price. Especially when, and I'm going to have to, if the house is going to give you money to buy this house for 1 year, I'm still going to have to pay back later. So in the end, what am I benefiting from this? How exactly am I benefiting from this? Third, I want to talk about how, who are we housing here? Because they talked about how it's going to help low-income people, but as far as I know, our side of the case is helping low-income people with poor credit and poor income. Government home ownership programs often offer these groups by replying down payment, good credit, and job stability. Things many renter prices simply don't have. These marginalized groups will be thoroughly ignored through this whole homeowner policy. Price house market, let me just remind you this again and again, is volatile. It can lose its value over time. Just take the example of the 2008 real estate crisis with an increase of 45% of homeless individuals. How exactly are you explaining this? I explained this by inflation. There was inflation in the system. Inflation in the system 15 years ago, and that led to an increase of homeless individuals. Is that how we want to see the future of our country? In conclusion, we have proved to you many times how the opposition case doesn't stand and how their arguments were not relevant to this whole debate. We also exposed that the fact that they talked about benefiting the country and the government is not okay at all, and we proved to you many times that our side was better. Thank you. And we